This episode, how to find the inverse of a function. Episode 2, more examples coming up. Back into action. Okay, let's grab one more. You are given y as 3x plus 4 over 5x. Same steps to follow. So you already given your function as y equals the expression. So the first step can be simply skipped off. It's already given in the form y equals something. The next step, we want to solve it for x. Since you have a division, since you have a fraction, so you want to split it up by dividing through 5x. So you want to break this fraction up into two fractions. So you want to just separate the numerator by applying algebra. So just divide through. So you would be left with 3 over 5. Since x over x, they cancel each other out, plus 4/5 x. So just make sure that your x goes into denominator, so it doesn't go on top, it goes on bottom. Now, since we are aiming for x term, and for now just ignore it, then it's down in the denominator, it's a little bit different, but just ignore it. And since we want to isolate this, so just move this term to the left side, and I would rewrite it in reversed order. So it becomes so you move this constant by subtracting 3/5 from both sides. So you would be left, here it's cancelled, and you would be left with y minus 3/5. Now, keep your left hand side as is, and on the right side you want to get the common denominator. Just subtract these two fractions. So y always could be thought is being y over 1. So you would have 5, the common denominator, and 5y goes on top, minus 3. Things getting better with the time. Now, still you're aiming for x. Now for 5x, because this 5 is attached x, but don't worry about this. Later on we could easily get rid of 5 just by dividing by 5 both sides, what we would get. Now, at this point, you could use the proportion property. You could just simply cross multiply. You want to multiply this term by right top, and you want to multiply this left top by this right bottom. Just normal, simple cross multiply. So you would get 5x times, and make sure you draw the parentheses. So you want to include this term within the parentheses. So 5y minus 3 equals 4 times 5. Keep going, keep simplifying. Since 5 goes on the left side 5 times, and 5 is attached to the right side, you could simply cancel by 5. You can divide by 5 both sides. So when you divide by 5, these 5 cancel each other out. So you would be left with x now the last step, thankfully. So we are looking for x. We want to get x alone itself on the left side. So this entire term is attached to x. So simply all you need to do is just divide both sides by this entire parenthesis, which is 5y minus 3. So you divide it out, and your x is 4 over 5y minus 3. The second step is completed. We got this x. So it's a fraction. It's okay. Now, you want to replace x with f minus 1 of y, f superscript negative 1 of y. So becomes just f superscript negative 1 of y equals 4 over 5y minus 3. And finally, the last step, you want to replace y with x everywhere where y appears in your formula. So you would be simply left with and this is your inverse function for that y. The last one for today. So this one contains square root. So, but the same steps apply over here. So you're already given y equals, so just simply skip over the first step and move to the second one. So solve for x. Now, since we have this 3 attached to this root and we're aiming for this x, which is basically underneath the root, so just the first step would be just divide by 3. So we want to get rid of this 3. So just divide by 3. And we would isolate this root, entire root. So you would be left with y over 3 equals just root, and we have to keep what we have inside, 3x minus 8. Now, since we are looking for x, we want this x, so just square both sides of this equation. Just simply raise both sides to the second power. Why we want to raise the both sides to the second power? Because since squaring and taking the square root, they are inverse operations of each other, so they undo each other. So we would be left with just this underneath expression. So in other words, we simply got rid of this square root because we don't want it. Now, since you need to raise to the second power this fraction, so you want to raise separately to the second power y squared over 3 squared, which is 9. So don't forget that you need to raise both top and bottom to the second power. So, and your right side simply becomes 3x minus 8. Now, since we're aiming for x, we want to get x alone, so, and this negative 8 is next to, just we want to eliminate this negative 8, so we undo. We need to do the inverse operation. So since the addition undoes subtraction, so we want to add this 8 to both sides. So we would be left with, so I would write it in reverse order if you don't mind. 3x equals y squared over 9 plus 8. Things are getting better. And at this stage, you might want to just divide by 3. And you're kinda right. But look at the right side. You have fraction plus a number. And if you straight away divide by 3, you would be left with something like complex fraction that actually you want to get rid of. So you want to simplify it down. So at this stage, before dividing by 3, I would simplify the right side first. So just by getting the common denominator and add this 8 with this fraction. So let's do it. 3x, just keep it as is. 9. And since 8 times 9 gives you 72, you would be left with 72 on top. Alright, and now at this stage we want to get x alone. So basically we want to divide both sides by 3. So we can undo this multiplication, so by taking the inverse operation, division. But I would, instead of this, just multiply both sides by a third. It's the same thing as dividing by 3. So 3 and 3 goes away, and you would be left with just x on the left side. And since this entire fraction, you can draw kind of parentheses, gets multiplied by 1 over 3, so you multiply tops straight across, and you would be left with just the same y squared plus 72, since here you have 1, so 1 will not affect. And 9 times 3, you multiply bottom straight across. That would leave you just 27. Now this is your x, and you want to, the next step, you want to replace this x with f superscript -1 of y. So you would have just f -1 of y equals y squared plus 72 over 27. And finally, the last step, you want to replace y with x. Everywhere y shows up in your formula. So you're left with f -1 of x squared Alright, and this is your inverse function for that 3 square root of 3x minus 8. I hope it helps you. Train your brain, and thanks for watching. I know everyone hates maths, but if you like my video, please hit like, share with your friends, leave the comment down below, and make sure to subscribe so you will not miss my new videos.